What is kindness? We think of it as something we give freely, without expectation. A gift from the heart. But what if kindness is not a gift at all? What if it is a key? A key that opens doors we did not know existed, to places we never meant to enter? This is the story of a farmer who shared his last meal with a stranger, who gave water when he had barely enough for himself. He thought he was being generous. He didn't know he was making a deal with the land itself. And the land, once fed, is always hungry for more. Dikeledi was not a rich man. He was not a powerful man. He was a farmer who worked the thin soil of the Kiburi valley, where the rains came late and left early, where the crops barely clung to life. He had a small hut, a wife named Naledi, and a daughter, Thandi, who was too thin and laughed too rarely. They were not hungry, not yet, but they could see hunger on the horizon, a patient predator waiting for their last grain to run out. One evening, as Dikeledi returned from his fields, he found an old woman sitting beneath the great baobab at the edge of his land. She was dressed in rags, her face wrinkled as dried riverbed, her hands trembling with age. She did not ask for food. She did not ask for water. She simply sat, as if waiting. Dikeledi's first thought was to walk past. His second thought was of his daughter, and what he would want someone to do if she were old and alone. He brought the woman a bowl of millet porridge, the last of the week's supply, and a gourd of water. She ate slowly, deliberately, her eyes never leaving his face. When she was done, she spoke. "You have given me what you could not spare. What do you want in return?" Dikeledi shook his head. "I want nothing. You were hungry. I had food. That is all." The old woman smiled, a strange, knowing smile that did not belong on a face so old. "You will have more than you asked for, farmer. The land remembers kindness. And the land pays its debts." She rose, walked into the darkness, and was gone. The next morning, Dikeledi woke to rain on his roof. Not the usual brief drizzle, but a steady, soaking downpour that filled his water barrels and turned the dry earth to mud. He ran to his fields, and what he found made him weep. The crops had grown. Overnight. The millet was tall and heavy. The beans were thick on the vine. The ground was dark with moisture, rich with life he had never seen in all his years of farming. The news spread. The villagers came to see. They touched the plants, tasted the water, marveled at the transformation. The old chief, Tumelo, declared it a blessing from the ancestors. The people danced and sang and gave thanks. But Dikeledi knew. This was not the ancestors. This was the old woman. And he began to wonder what she had taken in return. The rains continued. The valley turned green. Where other regions still suffered drought, Kiburi flourished. Farmers who had been on the edge of starvation suddenly had more than they could harvest. The village grew fat on the bounty. But the bounty was not natural. The plants grew too fast, sprouting, fruiting, dying in a single season, then sprouting again. The soil grew darker, richer, but also warmer. As if something beneath it was burning. Naledi, Dikeledi's wife, noticed first. "The earth is fevered," she said one night, touching the ground outside their hut. "It is giving too much. It cannot keep this up." Dikeledi nodded, but said nothing. He had begun to dream of the old woman. She stood at the edge of his fields, watching, waiting. And in his dreams, she spoke. "The land was hungry, farmer. You fed it. Now it will feed you. But all hunger returns. All debts must be paid." The harvests grew more abundant, but also more strange. The crops were larger than any had ever seen, millet stalks as tall as men, pumpkins too heavy to carry, yams that grew in shapes that seemed almost deliberate, like words written in the earth. The people ate, and the people were satisfied, but Dikeledi noticed something else. Those who ate the most from his land began to change. It was subtle at first. A farmer who had taken a dozen yams found his hands growing calloused in patterns that matched the roots he had harvested. A woman who cooked the millet found her hair turning the color of ripe grain. The land was not just feeding them, it was marking them. Dikeledi went to the only person who might understand, Maia, the village healer, an old woman almost as ancient as the stranger who had visited him. Maia listened to his story, her face growing graver with each word. "You have fed the spirit of the land," she said. "She was starving, Dikeledi. Our greed, our neglect, our forgetting of the old ways, we had left her empty. Your kindness woke her. Now she is filling herself with your harvest, your people, your very soil. She will not stop until she is full. And she has been empty for a very, very long time." Dikeledi's blood ran cold. What will happen when she is full? Maia looked at the fields, where crops were already sprouting again before the last harvest had been gathered. She will not need us anymore. She will have taken back everything she gave. And more. She will remember who woke her, Dikeledi. And she will not forget the taste of your kindness. The signs grew worse. Children born in the village emerged with leaves in their hair, not placed there, but growing from their scalps, green and delicate, feeding on the life that should have been theirs alone. The old chief, Tumelo, found his bones aching with the rhythm of the seasons, swelling in spring, heavy in summer, cracking with cold in winter. The people celebrated, still. They did not see the strangeness as a warning. They saw it as more blessing, more bounty, more life. But Dikeledi saw. And he saw the old woman again. She came to him in the fields one evening, when the sun was low and the shadows were long. She was no longer bent, no longer frail. She stood tall, her skin dark as fresh-turned soil, her hair flowing like water over rocks. Her eyes were the color of the earth after rain, deep, dark, endless. "You fed me, farmer," she said. "Now I am strong. But I am still hungry. The land has been starved for centuries. It will take generations to fill it. Your children, your children's children, will feed me with their labor, their love, their very bodies. This is the gift you gave. This is the price." Dikeledi fell to his knees. "I only gave you porridge. A bowl of millet. That is all." The spirit smiled, and her smile was the first spring rain and the last autumn frost. "You gave me what you could not spare. That is the most powerful offering. The land does not take what you have too much of. It takes what you cannot give. And makes you give it anyway. You will feed me with your life, Dikeledi. And your daughter. And her daughter. This is the fertility you brought to the land. It will never end." Dikeledi returned to his hut, his heart heavy. He looked at Naledi, at Thandi, at the small, humble life they had built. He had thought his kindness would save them. Instead, he had bound them to something ancient and insatiable. He went to Maia again. There must be a way to stop it. Maia was silent for a long time. Then she spoke, her voice old and tired. "The spirit is not evil, Dikeledi. She is the land itself. She was hungry, and you fed her. She will not stop feeding until the land is whole again. That is the nature of hunger. It does not negotiate. It does not compromise. It only consumes. Then what do we do?" Maia looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "You must give her something she cannot consume. Something that will satisfy her hunger without taking more from you. A sacrifice of a different kind." She led him to a cave behind the waterfall, a place the villagers had avoided for generations. In the cave was a pool of still water, black as night, reflecting nothing. Maia told him to kneel, to look into the pool, and to see not his reflection, but the spirits. He did. And in the water, he saw the old woman, no, not old. Ancient. Eternal. The land itself, patient and patient and patient. You have come to bargain, she said. Her voice came from the water, from the earth, from the air. I have come to ask, Dikeledi said. Let my people go. Take the fertility back. Let the land return to what it was. I will tend it. I will feed it with my hands, not with my blood. That is what farmers do. We work. We wait. We do not ask for miracles. The spirit was silent. The water was still. Then, slowly, it began to ripple, not from his voice, but from something deeper. You offer me your labor? Not your children? Not their children? I offer you what I have. My strength. My years. I will work this land until my hands are dust. I will never ask for more than it gives. That is the covenant you made with the first farmers, long ago. Let us return to it. The water swirled. The cave trembled. And then the spirit rose from the pool, not as an old woman, not as a young one, but as the land itself, soil and root and stone and rain. Agreed, she said. And she was gone. The next morning, the crops were normal. The millet was waist-high, not towering. The yams were round and brown, not shaped like words. The land was fertile, yes, richer than it had been in generations, but not fevered. Not hungry. The people woke from their strange dream of endless bounty and found themselves on familiar ground. They were grateful, though they did not understand what had been lost. Dikeledi worked his fields from dawn to dusk, as he had always done. But now he worked alone. Naledi had left him, not out of anger, but out of fear. She had seen him bargaining with the spirit, and she could not look at him without seeing the land in his eyes. Thandi stayed. She helped him plant and harvest, and she learned the old ways, the songs for planting, the prayers for rain, the offerings left at the edge of the field for the spirit that watched. Dikeledi aged quickly. The bargain he had made, his labor for the land's mercy, cost him more than years. It cost him the easy friendship of his neighbors, the comfort of his wife, the simple joys of a life without debt. He became a figure in the village, half farmer, half legend, the man who had fed the land and been fed by it in turn. When he died, many years later, they buried him at the edge of his fields, facing east, toward the rising sun. And on his grave, they planted a single millet seed. The next morning, it had sprouted, a tall, strong stalk, golden in the dawn light. And on its leaves, the dew formed patterns that looked almost like words. The land remembers. The land pays its debts. And sometimes, the greatest kindness is not the one that saves you, but the one that binds you to something older than yourself. Dikeledi gave what he could not spare, and the land took what it needed. His story teaches us that kindness is never simple, that generosity has consequences we cannot foresee, and that the oldest debts are not paid with gold, they are paid with time, with labor, with the slow turning of the seasons. The land remembers every seed, every sacrifice, every hand that has worked it. And it does not forget who woke it from its long hunger. But what do you think? Was Dikeledi's kindness a gift or a curse? Should he have let the old woman starve, or was his sacrifice the only way to save his people? And what would you do if the land you worked began to ask for more than you could give? Let me know in the comments below. The spirit is patient, and the land is still waiting. If you want to hear what happens when the next farmer makes a gift they cannot spare, you know what to do. Don't forget to subscribe for more original, chilling tales.